You're listening to the Purdy Girl Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kelly Purdy. My mission is to connect military spouses, fiancés, girlfriends, and booty calls worldwide. So let's do this. Hi, hello. Welcome back to the Purdy Girl Podcast. Can I just tell you guys something really quick? And a lot of you are probably going to be like, well, yeah, Ashley, I told you so. When you have a baby, everything takes 10 times as long as you think it's going to. I cannot believe it's already, what time is it? 2:30. 2:30. I swear the last time I looked at the clock, it was like 7 a.m. But here we are. It is still Wednesday, and I am still putting out a podcast because, well, I want to. It's my hobby, and it's fun, and I love it, and I'm going to keep doing it, even though I have a baby. So thank you for showing up, and thank you for listening. I wasn't sure how podcast was going to go after Isabella came, but you know what? I'm figuring it out. And I think that's a pretty good motto, to have just in general. You got to figure it out. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. And if it's not, you'll find an excuse. Words to live by. That's not my quote, but I mean, if you've never heard of it, I will take credit. So today's topic is about confidence and how to increase your confidence. And some of you might be thinking, hey, Ashley, what makes you an expert on increasing confidence? And to that, I would say nothing. Nothing makes me an expert about it, but it is something I like to work on and I try to flex like a muscle. If that even makes sense. Okay. So sure, I think some people are perhaps born with a little bit more confidence than others. And I think that there's an art to even being confident and not cocky. My husband has this story of when he was going through this really intense school for the Army, and there were these checkpoints where he would come up upon, and dudes would be waiting and evaluating him. So every time he would come up on these checkpoints, he'd make sure to put his shoulders back, hold his head high, and in his words, he would say, I would just act like it ain't shit. And in fact, he was like dying inside, but he would act like it was nothing. And really, I mean, I would dare say it might be one of the hardest things he's ever done, but he would just act like it was nothing. So he never showed that it was like so hard. And in order for him to keep going and keep his energy up, he did those three things: shoulders back, head up high, and acting cool and confident. And I love that he did this. And I know it helped him so much mentally to just keep going and to keep pushing and to complete what he needed to complete. Ironically, though, however, like after the course was finished, he read the evaluations and a few of the instructors wrote that he came off cocky. And he laughs about it because it's like he's the least cocky human of all time. But he did those things, like shoulders back, just acted like it was nothing. But that's how it goes sometimes, right? Like I think some people are afraid to come off cocky or like egocentric, so they downplay their confidence that they could have, and that's not great. I would rather go through life with my head held high and just have people maybe mistake me as cocky than to hide in a corner somewhere. I read one time a while back that low self-esteem is like driving through life with your handbrake on. It all just comes back to not caring what other people think. Low confidence is caring way too much about what other people think. And oftentimes, no one is even thinking about you at all. They're all just worried about themselves. So just put that in your back pocket. There are a few things that I think really help with confidence that I just wanted to share with you today. And this is what I do when I'm feeling not so confident or really just need a boost for my day. It's just good reminders in general. And anyone can do these things. And I think a lot of it is just fake it until you make it. Fake it till you become it, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. But it does take practice. Like I said, it's like a muscle that you got to flex. So here they are. Okay. Number one, visualize yourself as you want to be. If you want to be more confident, visualize it. I know some of you might not be into visualization, but if you want to give it a try, I think that the best time to visualize anything is at night before bed, like as you're trying to fall asleep. You're already laying down, your eyes are closed, you're doing all you can to fall asleep. Think about what your day to day would look like if you showed up as your most confident self. How would you wake up? How would you walk into work? How would you walk into any room? What would you be wearing if you were confident? What would who would you surround yourself with? Something to think about. And just visualize it as you fall asleep. If you want to be more confident, think about what you have coming up the next day. If it's at work, you have a presentation at school, whatever. How would you, as your most confident self, show up that day and crush it? So the second thing is do one thing that scares you every day. Can you guys hear Isabella? I'm not editing this, and she's just talking out there, hanging out with my husband. He's feeding her or burping her. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyways, so number two, do something that scares you every day. I know that's cliche. And as I even say it, I'm like, okay, well, sometimes, we're not presented with things that scare us every single day. So I guess it should say, don't be afraid to do something that scares you if something does come up. For example, back in 2013, I flew to Costa Rica by myself to volunteer for 3 months. I was freaking terrified. I had never flown out of the country alone. I had never lived with total strangers, especially, I was going to a country that, they spoke a different language. It was pretty freaky, but I knew I wanted to do it. And I knew I wanted to do it, yet I would still try to talk myself out of doing this trip 800,000 times. And you know what I always told myself? It always came back to, I'm not going to do this just because I'm scared. Another time I ran towards something that scared me was leaving my home in Utah to pursue my relationship with Bennett and moving to Washington. I was so scared. I had no idea what was going to be on the other side of that move. But again, I would always come back to, this is scary and that's okay. I'll be okay if things don't work out. And I had to be confident in those decisions. And I feel like that was one way that I really flexed that confidence muscle. So, number 3 I wrote down is question your inner critic. So, I've talked about my inner critic, Janet, I like to call her, in the past on this podcast. She's a jerk. She's a real piece of work and she pops up quite a bit. The thing that's helped me with her is, first of all, just recognizing when she pops in, naming her. Once I figured out who she was, named her, and just figured out how to talk her down, calm her down, know how and when to tell her to F off. She comes in hot, by the way, especially just now that I'm a new mom and I just don't have time for that. I need to be confident and sure of myself as a new mom for Isabella. I need to be confident in my abilities and my motherly intuition. So I just tell Janet that she can take a back seat, and I just tell her that on the regular. I'm just like, I don't have time for you today, Janet. Bye. So number 4 that I wrote down is to care for yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And this is so basic and so micro, but think about how much just showering and washing your hair, putting on a little makeup, it just helps you to feel your best. You're just showing yourself that you matter and that you care about yourself. And maybe there are some anti-makeup people out there listening, and that's fine. Whatever your thing is. Maybe you love just putting on your favorite moisturizer and whatever it is. I do think there is something to putting in a little effort to your appearance. Is that bad? I don't know. I just feel like my most confident self is when, I brush my hair, I brush my teeth, I spritz some perfume on, I don't know, wear my favorite lipstick. Also, I just feel like, caring for yourself means physically too, eating well, getting in exercise. You just need to care for yourself. That really, I think, is probably the most important piece for being confident. Number 5 that I wrote down was to surround yourself with confident people. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Are they confident people? And I'm not saying to like change your friends if they're not confident people, but it's something to look at, something to observe. If you want to be more confident, surround yourself with confident people. And that could also be mentors too, listen to podcasts of confident people, read self-development books from confident authors, things like that. Speaking of books, I highly recommend the book Presence by Amy Cuddy. This book really teaches you how to show up for your life in a confident way and how much your presence matters. How you present yourself matters. And I just love it. And she teaches you this way to just show up to any meeting, anything that you need, just want a little confidence boost. She says, I think I might butcher it, but she talks about going into the bathroom and doing the Superwoman. You can stand in front of the mirror and like hold your fists on your hips like Superwoman, or even like putting your hands all the way up above your head, like super big and wide and taking up a bunch of space and just like feeling that confidence. It might sound crazy, but I'm telling you, she also has a TED Talk that's really good as well if you want to check that out. So it's Amy Cuddy. All right. So to sum up, number 1 is visualize. Number 2 is do something that scares you. 3 is question your inner critic. 4, care for yourself. 5, surround yourself with competent people. And that's it for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you love this episode, make sure you rate and review and subscribe and share with a friend. Really appreciate it. Love you guys, and I will talk to you later. Thank you for listening to Purdy Girl Podcast. If you have a second, please rate and review and share this podcast with somebody you think would love it. See you next week.